Yun. Mga matitibay. Ilang taon?
Ralba.
Ilang taon kaya?
16.
16 years old, nag-aaral?
Hindi na rin po.
Kailan ka tumigil?
Kasi hindi na po ako napag-aral na mabuti. Kasi sinasama ko dito sa taas.
Trabaho na lang.
Opo.
Okay.
Kaya hindi naman namin nakapagtapos.
Ilang taon?
12 po.
12 years old, nag-aaral?
Hindi po.
Olivario,
Olivario, ilang taon?
25 years old.
25 years old, nag-aaral pa?
Hindi na.
Tigil na.
Nakakalakal na lang basura sa dam din.
Okay, gaano ka katagal nangangalakal?
Siguro mga 10 taon na rin.
Okay, ilang taon?
13.
13? Nag-aaral pa?
Hindi na po.
Ansale. Okay, ilang taon?
18 po.
18. Nagtatrabaho, nag-aaral?
Nag-aaral po.
Nag-aaral. Anong year na?
4th year po.
4th year.
High school.
Sino nang pinakamatagal sa inyong nangangalakal? Ikaw, no? 10 years. 10 years ka na nangangalakal. So, sa araw-araw, magkano naman ang kinikita mo?
Depende. Minsan, pag maraming kalakal, 200.
200 sa araw. Pero pagka mahina,
Mga 150 lang.
150. So, nababawasan ng 50. Gaano ka katagal bago tumigil mag-aral?
2003.
2003. Anong year yun? Si Kuya, magkano ang kinikita mo?
Ganun din po.
Pareha lang.
Opo.
So, ano naman ang mga kinokolekta nyo?
Yung mga plastic.
Plastic, tsaka
Babukod-bukod rin po namin.
bukod-bukod. May dala kayong mga sako. ganun?
Sako po.
Okay. Kasi ikaw gaano ka nakatagal din
Mga 10 na rin.
10 years na rin. Tagal na rin ha. Pag-aaral, gaano ka natagal, anong natapos mo na sa pag-aaral?
Tapos ko lang po lang grade 4.
Grade 4. May plano magtuloy?
Meron po.
Okay. Anong pangarap sa buhay?
Maging doktor. Makatulong sa mga mahirap.
Okay. Okay yan.
Sa may mga sakit.
Libre mangarap di ba?
Oo naman.
Walang problema.
Wala na.
Pero sa tingin nyo, mga ilang kayong doon, tumatrabaho dyan sa taas?
Marami po kami dyan lahat
Talaga.
Nasa 400 kami dyan
400?
Bukod
Talaga?
naman yung pang-araw tsaka pang-gabi.
Oo.
Oo. So kayo, may schedule kayo, ganun? Hindi naman, basta kung maisipan kung
may
umakyat.
isipan lang po.
Ganun lang.
Okay. Buti pinapayagan
Mga bata kasi binabawal nila niya sa taas. Kasi mga minor de edad nga ganun.
Anong masasabi naman ng mga magulang nyo? Okay lang.
Okay lang din kasi nakakatulong naman sa kanila. Kaya naman yung sinusuportahan din namin sila.
Pero sa pagdating sa pag-aaral nyo, hindi ba kayo sinasao mag-aaral ka?
Rin, pero sinusuportahan din kami. Ako lang ako tumigil kasi nag-asawaan yung mga ate ko. Wala na sa kanila tutulong.
So, ikaw na lang.
Ako na lang. Yung kapatid kong isa wala na dyan, umalis na. Ako na lang mag-isa dito.
So, ang kasama mo yung
Mga
nanay at
kapatid
tatay
ko
mo.
na lang. Iba. Ako gusto ko na nga umalis dyan.
Gusto mo nang umalis? Bakit?
Kasi nahihirapan na ako. Ang tagal ko na nangangalay dyan. Ganun pa rin yung buhay. Wala pa rin. Nangyayari.
If I have a mic, all right. How are you doing? That was a better response than the first one. I was kind of disappointed. You guys did a good job. You passed the test. So, my name is Brett Durbin. I am the director of Trash Mountain Project, and just want to say thank you for taking the time to be out here. We know your time is valuable, and coming out to a benefit is usually not at the top of everyone's list of something to do, but I really think this is going to be something that hopefully will be impactful for you, and you'll be able to learn more about what we do as an organization. And before we get moving through the program anymore, I just wanted to say a couple of quick thank yous. First is to Capital Plaza. We're still confused on how this whole relationship with them started for us, but they basically, I think they only charge us what they charge us just to justify that they have to charge us something. And so they really make this whole thing happen for the facilities and linens, everything you see. They have just, for some reason, taken us under their wing and done that for us. So would you guys please thank Capital Plaza for doing that? In addition to that, we have some private donors that were underwriters for this event. And so last year was the same type of deal, but this year we had a few people that decided to just pay for all of the expenses for this. And we've kept them as low as we can, but they cover them outside of any ministry dollars, and so that way we're not having to use any donated funds to put on an event like this. So it's really a huge deal for us that 100% of everything that comes in, including corporate sponsors, everything else goes straight into the field. And so that's really a big deal to us. Our corporate sponsors, thank you. We had a lot of them this year, just people that got tables and everything else, our church partners. The people, the ladies that put this thing on, we had Terry and Jane and Elaine and Ain, but we just had some incredible ladies that have been working on this for like 6 months. And so they've done such an incredible job. And then also Robert and Molly Krause, they started preparing the food for this on Tuesday. And so they have really been working hard at serving 1,100 people for an event over this last week. So can we just say thank you to all them, everyone that's involved. The first guest I'm going to bring out, and I say guest because he is here from Honduras, and so he and his wife came up. It's his wife's first time in the United States, so it's been fun to watch her and just have the experience. And I think Topeka is a great place to come for your first time. So, they've just had a great time with us. But his name is Johnny Ordonez. He is. We've had this ongoing joke kind of argument with each other for the last week about who is actually the founder of Trash Mountain, and I still say it's him. I think we've agreed that really is neither of us, but he was the one who, he and his wife inspired me and my wife in such a way when we went down that first trip 5 years ago and saw what we saw in Tegucigalpa, and then saw this group, this school that was making such an impact in that community. We had to respond. There was nothing else we could have done with our lives at that point but to respond. And there was one thing he said to me at the very end of that trip. We came up and offered, hey, I'll go quit my job at the church and come down here, and I'm just in, whatever we can do to help. And he looks at me, and I could just see it on his face. He's looking like this really big white boy that can't speak Spanish, and he's thinking, he says, don't move down here, and I kind of like, all right, and he said, no, you don't understand. He said, you work at a large church in Florida, from what I understand. He's like, you have resources and influence like we can't understand down here. And he pointed at this boy, he was probably 12 years old, and he said, if you guys don't help, that guy dies Thursday. And he was just very straight about it, and it clicked. He's like, yeah, we can do a ton from here that they can't do down there, and we can't do their job, they can't do our job, we have to work as a team. And so it just made sense. So would you please welcome Johnny Ordonez to the stage?
Thank you for everything that you said about me.
Yeah. It was all truthful, right?
Yeah. We're not gonna fight. We're not gonna fight. I promise you. So thank you very much to invite us to share about what is God doing in Honduras Trash Dump. Honduras Trash Dump has a lot of people working every day. And we say work because there's a little more dignity to say work than just to go to the trash dump to look at something to eat or something to sell. But specific in Tegucigalpa, Honduras is the capital. There are 1,800 people every day looking something to eat or something to sell to survive. And when I talk about the trash dump, I can't stop to think in our nursery, because after me in love, faith, and hope, and we have children from the nursery to college student, and but the nursery is so special for me because this is the more, this is the area though they live in the most difficult situation, and that broke my heart because the parents, they don't have nobody who take care of the baby in their homes. And they have to bring their baby at a trash dump, and they put in a cardboard box before they go to the trash to look at something to eat or to sell. And that is really incredible. Some children die, other children are really sick. And I can't stop to think in one of the baby that we got 1.5 years ago at a trash dump because she was in a cardboard box too. Her name is Dajani. So Dajani is a cute baby. She was 2 months age when her father brought her to the trash dump, and they put her in a cardboard box. But we didn't know where to worry because somebody was taking care of her at the trash dump. Her older sister, Angie, was 2 years old. A baby was 2 years old was responsible for Dajani, was 2 months age. And we brought them at the school. And the first 3 weeks, Angie, Dajani, older sister, was crying because she was her protector and nobody, she didn't want nobody to touch her. And but it's almost common. I don't want to say common, but it's almost normal at the trash dump to see a lot of children, a lot of baby, a lot of teenager, a lot of adult people working at the trash dump to survive. And like Dajani, there were a lot. We have 14 or 16 babies now in our nursery, but we have teenagers too. That is so interesting to think. And one of the guy that we have now, he was 14 years old when we met with him. His name is Antonio. Antonio, like Dajani, he grew up at a trash dump. But this is a little different. Antonio was born at the trash dump because his mom, she was ready to have a new baby, and she didn't have time to was at the hospital, and Antonio was born in the trash dump container. And when he was 14 years old, we started the school with my wife and I, and she had a small class, and Antonio came to my wife's class using a ski mask. He had a big knife and a big bat. This is very normal for the gang members at the trash dump. And my wife was scared, and she told me that she didn't want to attending him, but because she was scared, and I told her, just give him an opportunity. And my wife asked him, what do you want? And the guy with the schemas and big machete, big bat said, I just want to learn to read and write. My wife said, okay, sit down on the ground. And my wife told me, you know what, he need to go away. He need to go away. I was scared. I don't want to have him in the class. And I told her, we're going to give him just an opportunity, just one opportunity. And my wife told me, okay, we're going to give him an opportunity, but if he kills somebody, you're going to go to jail. Will be your responsibility. And I told her, okay. And my wife, she's so smart. She make 2 different groups in her class, and she make a competition, and she told them, the group who make more score in 2 months in math and Spanish class, gonna go with the pastor to the movie and Burger King. I was in trouble. My wife, she was angry with me, and she was looking for a revenge. And because I didn't have money to bring them, but I have 2 months to raise money. And she put this guy like a leader for one group. And this guy group won. And I brought them, around 5 or 6 of them, to watch Madagascar movie. And I was so excited because that was the first time for them to go to the movie. But the first 15 minutes in the movie, they were boring. And they told me that they didn't want to stay watching TV with a big screen. And we were at the Burger King. When they were at the Burger King for the first 5 minutes, they were in shock because everything was clean. Other people were serving food. And my wife looked at them, and she told them, okay, let's go to the playground. They went to the playground. And they take out the shoes, and they started to play in the game. And 15 minutes later, we need to get out because the feet smell was so terrible. So, but this guy, life changed. He was the best student the next 2 years. And we decided to pay a scholarship for him in a vocational school, 3 hours from the school. And he was there for 4 or 5 years, and he graduated for industrial mechanic 4 years ago. Now he's a welder. He is the guy that he helped us to build our dining room roof at the school. And this guy life changed. And last year, he finished the high school, and this year he's in college, a student to be a business designer. And this is a real miracle. It's very normal for when we have teams and I make the tour. So I make a question for the children and from the teams, and I told them what they would like to be when they grow up. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them, they say doctor, engineer now. But maybe 6 or 7 years ago, when I made the same question, they said, I would like to be a trash truck driver. That was their view. That was their expectation. But when I made that question to Antonio, when I listened that, somebody made that question to Antonio in a TV program, in the interviewer asked him, what do you want to be before you came to the school? And he said, my dream was to be killer pastor. I wanted kill pastor. In the interviewer asked him, why? Why you were thinking about that? He said, because there were a lot of pastors that they came to the trash dump, they make promise, they take pictures, they raise money, and they never back. And I was next to him.
This was the first time you heard it.
Yeah, that was the first time that I hear, oof. And I said, oh, Jesus. I was scared because I didn't know it. But now he has a new dreams. He's going to finish the college. After that, he's going to start a project for a street kid. That is his dream. Or a project for single mom. A trash dump guy thinking to help somebody else. That is a miracle. It's like Dajani now. Dajani is 1.5 years, close to have 2 years, maybe in a couple of months. And Antonio came when he was 14 years old. Dajani came to school when she was 2 months age. If Antonio gonna finish the college now, what does God gonna do with Dajani? That is part of our dream. But maybe the question is, what does happen? How is this? How? You say that the English for me is the second language. But maybe it's the 4th or 5th language.
Yeah, it's like 4.5.
Yeah, you understand. Yeah, but this is possible because it's the God plan. But it's possible because there are people like you guy and you that listen to God's voice and are involved in the God plan. Thank Jesus for Trash Mountain.
Well, I think I think that story, I remember when he first told it to me, I just kind of heard it and I thought, hold on a second, his dream was to kill pastors because they were making promises they were not keeping. They were coming in and they were taking pictures. We're always really nervous because we do a lot with film, but we always try to get as many people in the know so everyone's comfortable with it before doing anything. And it's, I think that's a red flag. I mean, you see that a lot. And so we have really tried to align more with what you're talking about and just work through you. I mean, obviously you had an impact on him and now he's wanting to start his own ministry. So it's just an incredible story. So I think the working together in conjunction, like I said at the beginning, it's, there's a part that they do that there's no way we could do. There's a part we do that they wouldn't be able to do here, and so just being able to work together as a team, that's really how this works, and so we just thank you for coming up all the way from Honduras and appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, and just to remember, Antonio has a new house now, a real house, because they had a shelter, like a plastic shelter before, but last year in summer, Trash Mountain built his new real house. Now he has a better life. Now dignified life. Thank you to you, Guy, and thank you to you.
Thank you. Can you pray for us? We're about to go to dinner, but I wanted to have Joni pray for us and see how many of you can understand his prayer.
Sure. Dios, le bendecimos y le agradecemos por esta noche especial que usted nos permite estar juntos, escuchando los milagros que usted hace, las grandes cosas que hacen y compartiendo alimentos juntos. Gracias por esta noche, bendice los alimentos que vamos a tomar, pero también bendice a aquellos que no tienen. Por favor, provea. Y si nosotros podemos ser de bendición, estamos listos. En tu nombre, Jesús. Amén.
Thank you. Well, good evening again and welcome to Spoken. My name is Nick Strobel. I will be your MC for the evening. And as we prepare to go to dinner, I just want to take a minute and have us reflect on what we've already seen. We have seen great things happening through Trash Mountain Project because of people being available to God. And I know for a lot of you in this room, Spoken is like a really cool reunion because you've been a part of what Trash Mountain's doing around the world, and we get to come back together and get updated on that and see old friends and make new friends. And I know for a lot of others of you, this is kind of your first experience with Trash Mountain, and I want to extend a special welcome to you because you're hearing all of this for the first time. And I can actually still remember vividly when I was getting to know Trash Mountain and just how great it was to see the organization and meet the people. I think it was about 4 years ago I met Brett for the first time, and I remember being unbelievably intimidated. I was like, man, this guy is huge. His biceps are bigger than my head, and my head is abnormally large. And my first thought was, this guy does not look like a missionary. He looks like he's going to punch me in the face and take my wallet. And he did. So I was confused, and I think we've moved past that. And the first mission trip I went on was with John DeMeo. It was one of his first mission trips, and he was unbelievably young. Like, his parents literally had to co-sign his release for him, even though he worked for Trash Mountain at the time. I don't think they have to anymore, but gosh, it has been really cool to see John grow up and get his driver's license. And man, it's so much easier to do trips with you now that you can drive. But all kidding aside, it has been a privilege to get to know the guys and girls behind Trash Mountain, to call them brothers and sisters in Christ. And I hope you're as excited as I am to be here tonight and see all of the things that God's done in the last year and look forward to all the things he's going to do in the years ahead. So as we go to dinner, just a couple of brief instructions for you. We are going to let you guys go in table groups of 8, and here's where you're going to go. There's these open doors here kind of in the middle of the room. As soon as you leave, you're going to make a right and go down the hallway. And when you do that, you'll have people directing you. There's going to be some open doors on the left where the food is. And listen, because this is important, the hydroponics exhibit is not where you get your food, okay? It's a different thing. We had some confusion at the first event. And Brett, I feel really bad. We had a sushi restaurant like that in Dallas. I'm going to buy you a new fish. I thought that's what we were eating. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you go in the doors on the left, okay? So we're going to start by just dismissing tables 1 through 8. If you are sitting at tables 1 through 8, you guys are free to go to dinner.
Well, good evening, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the dinner, the food, the mashed potatoes. How is it out there? Is it good? All right, good. Well, my name is John, and man, Nick was ragging on me back there. I mean, I had control of the media, and I thought, man, what picture? Maybe I'll show a picture of him like doing some sort of weird work task on a mission trip, and kept searching through the pictures, and I just couldn't find any of them working. But so that's a different story, though. So. But my name is John, like I said. I get to be a part of the storytelling process, filming with a lot of other great individuals. And Pastor Joni hit on it, and he was talking about how the people are what are important. And that's the same thing we do. When we capture film, the people are the most important thing. And we have a motto we say is, the shot is not the most important thing, the person is, and we won't get the shot if it's going to hurt someone's dignity. And so everything you see, we try to really capture the essence of the moment, but we try to capture the essence of the person as well. It's not something we want to do to exploit them, but it's a way for us to bring the story back home, and we try to communicate to that to them as well. But there are some things that get filmed but don't make the cut. And one thing we do around here, as you can already tell from what's been said on stage with Nick and myself, is we don't take ourselves too seriously sometimes. And so this next video is what didn't make the cut. So enjoy.
There goes the photographer.
Saan tayo magagaling?
So this one's gonna be super cool. What's that? Oh yeah.
What
You're
is
the man,
that?
John.
Come here home, buddy. Oh, there he goes. Where? He's back here. Under there. He's in. Oh, there he is. Were you at Spoken last year? No. Were you at Spoken the year before? No. Do you know about Stretch Mountain Project?
People, come on, let's get those batteries going.
All the way to the top, Danny. Don't let out! Danny, don't let out! Don't let out, Danny! Here it is. Steady cam in the century. A little further. Yes! All right, Brad, hit record.
We are used to be behind the curtain most of the time. So being filmed really is really hard to believe.
I'll tell you right now, there are snakes in here, and I don't like that. And I just stepped on a dog. Literally stepped on a dog.
This was just further
Oh yeah, good to go. Oh, dude, don't do that. We need. This is your dedication. This is how you get sick.
For the outtakes, right? Which is just about as long as the actual documentary.
Those of you who go to fellowship and know Joe Hishma there at the end, he can only say that because literally we have like an hour of outtakes from him from that one interview for the documentary. So we'll release that sometime later, Joe, wherever you're at. But, you know, we thought this was a good idea just to kind of, this is a heavy topic and it gets heavier throughout the evening. And so it's nice to be able to just kind of show some of the lighter side and try not to take ourselves too seriously, just like John said. Our next speaker I wanted to introduce, his name is Dr. Alberto Pataxel. He is the general superintendent for the Wesleyan Church of the Philippines. And so he's basically over all the Wesleyan churches within the Philippines, several hundred churches there. And so he is the one that if you did happen to see the documentary, there was this circumstance that really unusual, you know, chain of events led to us meeting him and couldn't have possibly planned what happened. But now we've become really just incredible partnership that we've developed with that church and with him, and we're going to invite him to come up here in a second. But I just wanted to tell you that our partnerships, our partners overseas are really, that's everything. I mean, for us, if we don't have people that we trust on the ground, nothing gets done, you know, and so we have to work through them, and it's our pleasure to work through the partners that we have. So if you would please join me in welcoming Dr. Pataxel.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you, Brad, for that very kind introduction. I really enjoyed it. Oh, but to God be the glory. 16 months from now, when I have known Trust Mountain Project, but the story was like this. almost 15 years that we have a small church on top of a hill. And when we began the church, the dumping site followed us. And I said to myself, no way that this church will grow. So I prayed to the Lord that the Lord will remove that garbage dumping site away from the church. But the Lord answered another prayer that scavengers, those poor people, flock around. And through the work and the ministry voluntarily of our pastors, husband and wife, many of them became our members. So I prayed another to the Lord while these two young couple trying their best to administer to the poor people. Lord, help us to meet the totality of a man, not only spiritually. Last May 11, 2012, the pastor Stanley texted me, Pastor, 2 Americans are looking for you. Wow. Tell them that they will come to the celebration tomorrow in Cubao, the very center of our project. We have a project. This is a former dumping site also that we envision to be the jumping board of training ministers to reach the word. When they came, we were busy at that time, and I have seen Brett and John. And they told me their vision and their plan about helping the poorest of the poor among Filipinos. And that came to possibility or realization because they went to that place where Stanley and Noreen are ministering. So I thank God. It's good that God did not answer all yes to our prayers, or else we haven't have a meeting. So I told them, come tomorrow, we have a special meeting with district superintendents. And then they came together, and that's affirmed their intention. And that's encouraged us. And our leaders were excited to know that there is something to Trust Mountain. To those garbage whom we have negative feelings. Because I thought before that when Trust Mountain will come beside the church, people will be shown away because of the smell. But the other side, poor people flock down. That's why we have members. So they said, we come back. And then I almost forgot. But when they came back, together with our district superintendent, Dr. Ed Ratz of Kansas City Wesleyan Church District, wow, it's real. It affirmed that this is the answer of prayer. In our meeting, I asked God to forgive me in my negative feelings about Trust Mountains and garbage. And I thank God also for the opportunity to meet them. They are the answer of our prayers, long 15 years prayer. And we made a plan to look for other dumping sites throughout the mainland of Luzon. So they came again in the first week of June this year, 2013, Brett, John Demio, and Denny. So we partnered also. My only son was the driver, and Rick with us, and even one of our driver. While we were touring and searching for different dump sites, I said to myself, wow, before I hit dump sites, now we are searching for many dump sites. We were together, and then we experienced to travel. I told them only 5 hours in crossing the mountain from the east to the eastern part of Luzon to the western part. I thought it was only 5 hours, but we spent 14 hours. You could see in the film that they were excited at the first time, but the remaining, I know that they were tired. But in our travel and searching and looking for those dumping sites, I have a perspective that the Lord showed me that we need to address. You know it already, but I learned that people who are frequently exposed to this kind of environment, their health and their life is in jeopardy. And then families who want that their life will be uplifted, but because of the dormant condition while they are scavenging in those dumping sites, they lost the opportunity to have dream. And of course, we know that if these garbages will not be taken care of, it endangers the balance of our ecology. So, partnering, and I committed myself to be a partner of the Trust Mountain Project because I know, and through your partnership, that we could connect to the people by our presence and doing and giving our care to them. We could communicate through listening to their groans and make a proper response holistically. Of course, we are doing spiritually, but they will be addressed in the whole being. And to those people who are deprived, especially in the education, we have the opportunity to uplift them. Who knows that those children were deprived, and we could, through our love, through our contribution, they will become doctors, and sometimes, or maybe someday, they will become officers of the Philippine government, and they will help the change of our society. So thank God, I committed myself to be a partner, and thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for your partnership also. God bless you, and thank you very much.
I got to address when he talked about the car ride, just because I've never been more angry on a mission trip and so disappointed in myself either, because basically said, it's going to be 5 hours, so we're going through these mountains, and then like 7 hours later, okay, it'll be 2 more hours. We hit 9 hours. Okay, it'll be 2 more hours. You know when you get like that false hope, and then it just keeps being pulled away from you? And I like passed up on dinner that night because I was so upset, and if you know me, I don't pass dinner very often, and so, but we had a great time with Dr. Pataxel and just him setting up this trip. You know, we were literally, what he was saying is we were on half of, the main island of Luzon, and visited 20 dump communities in 8 days. And so that gives you an idea of how many of these there are. And when we did this, we wanted to document it. It was a lot of research and development for us, and so we did get a lot of it on film, and we made just a short video that we want to share with you guys just to show you just kind of how big this issue really is, and then we'll talk about it after. But please say just thank you to Dr. He came from literally the other side of the planet to be here, so thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
When first hearing about us, many people assume that we must be some kind of environmental group. And while we care about the environment, garbage and pollution is not what concerns us. It is the people that are living, working, and dying within it that motivates us. Our focus is simple. It's people. Over the past several years, we have learned from our international partners and are successfully working with them to develop Christ-centered environments in trash dump communities within Honduras, Cambodia, Dominican Republic, and most recently the Philippines. The progress we have witnessed in these communities is only possible because of the people and resources that God has provided, but this movement is just getting started. Last year, we created a documentary that recounted a series of unusual events that inspired our commitment to serve in the Philippines. While filming, we were told that there were over 100 trash dump communities within this small island country. It was hard for us to believe this claim, but when a local pastor offered to take us to 20 such communities in just 8 days' time, we had to see it for ourselves. This trip to visit so many dumps in a matter of 8 days has really given us the best opportunity we've ever had to not only investigate how big this problem is with trash dump communities within the Philippines, but also on a global scale.
We're here in Catmon, and this dump is called Sitio 6, and which means Dump Site 6, and meeting a lot of kids and a lot of community members. And what we're finding out is most of the people on this trash dump are kids. They make anywhere from about 50 pesos a day, which is just a little bit over $1, and they do that so they can actually go to school. There is a K through 12 school in this area, but to actually go, they need supplies. So they work on the dump to get the supplies to go to school. No government organizations here, no non-government organizations here, so no one really helping out these people that we found out so far.
Now that we've been to around 40 of these communities worldwide, we find that the conditions are very similar in every place that we go to. And the families are just trying to meet their own basic needs, which usually they fall short of. And because of that, when you ask them about their dreams and aspirations, they really don't have any.
May mga tao rin pumupunta dito para gawin yung mga bagay na yun.
Opo, meron po.
So, okay lang sa inyo, pinapayagan nyo na.
Opo, kasi po, hirap po ng buhay.
Ano pangalan mo?
Arman po.
Rick. Arman, ilang taong ka na?
16 po.
Anong ginagawa mo dito ngayon?
Ito po, mga hiniwalay-hiwalay ko. Bawat item mo niyan, hiniwalay ko.
Ano ba itong mga ito? Nasa sakong ito?
Ito, lata eh. Ito po, malutong. Ito, sakong sira. Yung ito pong nasa ilalim yung mga to, plastic. Ito naman o, PVC.
So ikaw, kung ikaw tatanungin ko halimbawa, isasabihin mo, anong pangarap mo?
Ewan po, gusto ko po yung mapag-aral po sanang mabuti anak ko. Ewan po sanang mapag sa akin.
Nag-aaral ka ba?
Hindi.
Bakit hindi ka na nag-aaral?
Sobrang kahirapan din eh.
Anong pangarap sa buhay? Anong gusto mong maging? Halimbawa, bibigyan ka ng pagkakataon. Anong gusto mong maging?
Gusto kong matulungan lang ang magulang ko.
One of the interesting things about this journey we took around Luzon was that we were able to see just all the different types of landfills there are. I mean, some were fairly new and very small. Others were pretty innovative, even just the way that they were handling the garbage, and they weren't a place where you had families everywhere. And then on the far end of that spectrum, the other way, you had 100+ families living in one of these communities working on the dump with no real regulation. And for us, all these different factors really play into if we even consider a location to move into and do some of the work that we do. We never really get used to seeing the level of poverty that we operate in. But as we pulled into Santiago, there was something different. This was probably the worst conditions that we'd ever seen.
Bilang isang leader at presidente dito sa dam site, sa mga scavengers, ako po si Fernando Gangano.
Saan ito sa long at lumot dito?
Ito sa long at lumot, sir. Kamot nga ako na nga naka-steady kami tinapintas, sir, no digot. Numaminsan, sir, karkarong kami mo ito problema may panggap ko. Sa long at. Tangamin, sir, awan iti kasla mangsap-suporta kata kami turan niya mga bayan na.
Although the purpose of this trip was not really to be looking for areas for ministry expansion into new parts of the Philippines, we always want to stay sensitive to what God may do. We feel called by Christ to love people specifically in communities surrounding landfills.
He said that the children here no talk about that. So that's what we feel also very good.
So you would like to further be a church here? You can change everything, you know?
What do you want to happen?
The great thing is that the president of the community just admitted that there's a huge need for God here, and he doesn't know God. He just knows that there's a need for that, and so just seeing the Spirit move in that way before us, this really is just a sad situation, but a perfect scenario for the church to be the church. When we are evaluating the needs within a community like this, it's easy to recognize and become focused on the physical needs. But the moving thing about the people in Santiago was that their one request brought us back to our foundation. We got some really good news last night when Dr. Pataxel got in. That community that you just saw there at the end, Santiago, it's easier said than done to get land overseas, especially in the Philippines, and we've been working through that in a couple of different places, but we had made the decision just to move forward there, and just seeing what the needs were, and the fact that their one request was a church, and we're looking around and thinking, this place is a disaster. I mean, they could have asked us for anything. We wouldn't have thought that, especially someone who'd never heard of God, even what it was. And, with that request, we just said, yeah, let's move forward. And I remember Dr. Pataxel asked me, well, do you need to talk to your board about that? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I think if we say no to something like this, we should probably just fold up and stop doing what we're doing. And I would be pretty sure that they would agree, and they did. But he just got word recently that we were able to secure the land and the deeds, and we're going to be moving forward in that community. And we've already been working on permits to get moving, and then one of our local church partners who also has had a campaign going on recently, they're going to be planting churches as well as a part of that campaign, and they're going to be working with us to put a church there, a multi-purpose center. But then for us, it's like that's just kind of the start, and you're going to hear a little more about, how we address the issues. But, when someone makes that their request, when they could have said clean water, they could have said food, they could have said money or build me a house or whatever it may be, and they'd have been justified in doing that, they didn't, And so for us, we're really excited just to be able to move forward with what's going on there. And so we'll be able to keep you updated on that. But I had an interesting question asked me last week, and I didn't think I would talk about this here, but it just, as I thought about an answer to this question, it made sense to me that I should probably just share it here. And it was a guy had asked me, we were actually in public, which will come into play later, but he just asked me, he said, what's the worst thing you've ever seen or done, had to do with Trash Mountain, since you started it? And I said, I kind of sat there, and then instantly my mind just kind of started rifling back through a lot of these things that we've seen, and so many stories of just abuse and rape and murder and death and slavery, and you name it, it's all like the worst parts of this world are in these communities. And it does get to you, it does affect you, and as he asked me this, tears started filling my eyes. I'm kind of an emotional guy, and I just kind of blanked out. And I'll tell you, if you really, you want to make another man really uncomfortable, be in a public place, kind of have him ask you a question, and then just stare off into the distance and have tears start running down your face and don't say anything. He just kind of looked at me and, tilted his head, and I thought, oh, I'm sorry, man. So I started apologizing to him, and he starts apologizing to me, and I'm thinking, man, I'm sorry. I need to apologize to you. I feel kind of like a tool bag. I'm acting like this in public, but, we kept talking, and I said, I can't give you an answer to that. It's like, I really don't know what the answer is. And I didn't know the answer until I was preparing for tonight. I think the most difficult thing I've done with Trash Mountain since it started is right here, right now on this stage. And I say that because there's no way to separate one story from another, because they're people. They're not just stories. I mean, we tell these stories of what happens on the field, but I can't put one above the other as either the greatest story we've ever told or the worst thing that we've ever seen. And I look at those things, and I know that people are represented there. And I know that tonight, like this moment, when my job is to be a voice for those people, this is the most transitional and pivotal thing for us each year. I never used to look at an event as being something that would be so powerful for our organization, but this thing has really evolved. And just to be able to see what last year did, I think it gives you a glimpse at why I look at it this way and why I say this is actually the toughest thing. Because if I miscommunicate, if I don't share, properly, I feel like I'm letting them down, and that's a really weird burden, And so I know it's not on me, and I mean we could get into all that, but it's something that's really been heavy on me, on our staff, and I think if we share what happened last year, I told you even last year we were going to talk about what happened last year. We challenged you, let's build a community in one night. I'd explained that, it's about $500,000 to build the infrastructure for our model with one of these communities for school, elderly care, aquaponics, all these different things. And something bigger happened that night, because when we got back to the Philippines where we were planning on doing this, we were hit with just an urgent need from 4 different communities. And so we had to make the decision, okay, we need to just go ahead and start at least the first phase of what we do within all 4 of these areas now, 5 with Santiago. And, it was because of this event. Like, that gave us the resources, it gave us, the chance to go back and to commit and then to carry out so many different things. I mean, we raised a little over $300,000 last year, and we had an underwriter, and I thought we had a pretty cool ratio that, even for our underwriter, even though it doesn't cost us anything, we every 7 cents that was invested raised $1, which that's pretty good numbers, And so the response from you, the response from people in this room 1 year ago, just blew us away. We had 12 families moved into new homes. This is all strictly from this event. 5 new community partnerships developed, land being purchased with deeds in 2 different communities nearing completion. Stay was our first full-length documentary produced, viewed by thousands. Money in place overseas to fund the construction of an elementary school. 4 nutrition programs were launched. 3 kitchens were built. Over 20,000 meals were provided to malnourished kids. Thousands of people received medical assistance. TMP Aquaponics research facility here in Topeka is operational. 20 Filipino dump communities were visited and researched. 3 full-time Filipino missionaries were fully supported. 2 entirely unreached people groups within the Philippines were ministered to for the first time, and countless people heard the gospel for the first time. And that's from an event. So I hope it makes sense what my answer was. But the story that happened after the event, the things that happened, there's something I want to kind of key in on. We were able to create a film, and a lot of you guys saw that, the documentary called Stay that we did last year, and At the core of this story, there were two children that were healed. One was healed of AIDS. The other was he had not walked since, he'd never walked since infancy. He had a surgery on his legs, and our doctor looked at it and basically said there's no surgery, because our first response is, what can we do to help this kid walk? I'm thinking surgery or take him somewhere, braces, and he said no, with this specific kind of surgery he had, they basically removed all this tissue, it's not going to happen. And so we got an opportunity to pray with his mom during that trip, and the only reason we met him is we made a decision to stay the night out in this dump community. It's called San Mateo. And we were able to sleep in the midst of this little community. So we slept with all these families around us in these little huts, and we just had tents kind of in the middle of it. And the children the next day got up with us at 5 a.m. and they took us out and taught us how to pick through the trash and do what they do, with the express purpose of being able to afford their dinner the next night. And it was extremely humbling to go through that process with them. But Eugene, this little 8-year-old boy that's kind of at the core of that story, he was healed, and he was, I can tell you that it wasn't one of those, you see on TV, someone does all this, mumbo jumbo, and you can never believe that it's actually true. I saw this kid, there was a gap down to his bone in his leg, and that's no longer there. And so he's walking, he's running, he's jumping, he's playing with other kids, he's doing things as a normal boy. But there was another story going on that we really didn't know was happening either during that time. And there's a card on your guys' table that's kind of propped up. On the back of it is actually a picture of these boys. The youngest you see in the picture is actually one of the brothers, and then the other brother isn't in the picture, but this is their dad. They were just sleeping 10 feet from us when we stayed the night out there, and they just needed minimal food to survive, but they didn't. They died. And it was just days apart from each other. We found out about it. We actually briefly mentioned it last year, but it's had a very, very strong effect on me, on all of us, because it was all just because of malnutrition. So this is something that could have been prevented. It's something that's easily prevented, honestly. And since learning about this, more kids have died. More kids have been abused, more kids have been forgotten. And we received some news from some doctors over there, and we also had a medical team that went, but from the doctors, they basically just said, if you guys don't start a nutrition program and meet some basic medical needs, these kids are just gonna start dropping like flies. And that was a hard thing to hear, because there's this stark contrast. We're celebrating this thing that happened with these other two kids, and at the same time, from literally this same little neighborhoods, they lived right next to each other. They stayed literally right next to each other in this community. The other two died. And we could have actually helped them. That's something we can do. See, I can't heal kids. That's not me. That's a God thing. If he chooses to do that, it's incredible, and we want to see that. But when it comes to something as simple as feeding a kid, that's something we can do. We can care for them, we can love them. That's a choice that we have to make. If there's something impossible that we can't do, that's when we put it in front of God. But he's already called us to do what we're supposed to do as human beings. And I feel like that is where we need to step forward. We need to be able to do what he's called us to do. He can do whatever he wishes, but also so can we, right? We have a lot of choices in life that we can make. And I'm being honest with you when I say I'm not trying to be sensational or go after the emotions. This is just emotional. When you see these kids and you get to know them, they're no different than ours. There's a plan that's in place, and we have an opportunity to join it, because the one behind it blesses his plans, not necessarily ours. And this is something that we are trying to get on board with. But for us, it's not as simple as just meeting some of those basic needs. We've got to move beyond that. And so for us to be able to explain what we do and how we go about this and how we create a plan to even halfway have an impact in one of these communities, it's a combination of two words. It's relief and development. Most of us have been involved in some kind of relief effort, whether it's financially or actually going and carrying sandbags, doing different things. A lot of times it's, after a hurricane or here a tornado or something else. And that's something we have to do. I mean, when there's a disaster, people step up, and it's actually a pretty cool thing to see a lot of times. Even in the midst of a disaster, you see people come together and do something together to help others. But for a dump community, it's kind of strange because the disaster's already happened and it's continuing to happen every single day. And so, yes, there is that relief, but how do we go beyond relief? And I think actually it's fairly easy. We have to, meet those basic things: clean water, food, healthcare, get those things moving. But then we got to move into development. We got to move into something that actually addresses the core root of the problem, and that's that they absolutely have no hopeful options. I mean, there's no schools, there's just nothing there. And so that's why for us, we have got to address that entire problem. And so you're gonna see a video pop up here, and it's basically just a moving model of what we do. This is our missions model. And so if you look at it, this is kind of a comprehensive look at what we do, and you could do this on about an acre and a half. One of the first things we do, obviously past that whole relief thing, is there's usually a church there. There's usually someone we can partner with, or we need to build, the church. But, going on from there, it's education. Even just teaching English as a second language through a tech school, you can do so many different things and get people jobs and work with that. When we build a school, we always build a commercial kitchen to go with it. Elderly care is actually something we're getting into now. There's a lot of problems with elderly care in these areas, and so we've been partnering with McCrite Plaza here in town to develop a working model of how to address elderly care. Johnny and I were talking about it yesterday. This is such a big issue because you're not like focusing on education. You're not just focusing on clean water. You got to hit all of these things. And then aquaponics, you saw at the end. If you get a chance, you got to check out the room, the exhibit we have, and the fact that we built this place in Topeka. It's something that's really kind of catching steam. And this is it's a way to produce a massive amount of food in a very short time through just water systems, growing fish and growing plants. They feed off each other, and it just goes nuts. And so, the footprint, you put down a quarter of an acre for one of these things, and you will grow what you would grow in about 25 to 30 acres in terms of vegetables. You also have your fish, and so go talk to them about this and see what it is. But this is a way that we can help bring our partners to self-sustainability, because for us, we don't want this also to be something where it just is, ongoing forever. We want to have an exit strategy. We want to help our partners get to a place where we're not having to put resources into it, because we want to move on to other places that are praying the same prayer that they prayed that brought us there in the first place. And so, we're hoping that this is a 5 to 7 year process for each community, and working through and helping with micro business options and different things like that. And so there's a lot to it. There's absolutely a lot to it, but it can happen. So tonight really is about a new beginning in 5 of these areas, and so we've gotten a very small start in each one. We have the right partners. We've got everything set up. It's just a matter of resources. It's just a matter of getting it done, and so when we explain all this, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. So I apologize for that. I know it's just a lot of information all at once, and I try to keep it short, but, the pastor in me just has to keep going and going and going. But, I want to at least try to give you a glimpse of why the heaviness about tonight, why this is important. And honestly, I hope no matter what you believe, I know everyone in here doesn't believe the same thing as us. That's fine. But I hope no matter what you believe that we as human beings should be caring for each other. Period. It's pretty simple. I think we're just called to love each other. We're called to care for someone who's in a very bad situation. There's a friend of mine that he gave me, Kevin Hahn. I think he's in here. I think he came to both events, but he gave me a term, and it's that everyone in this room has won the ovarian lottery. Think about it for a second. And the question is, what do you do with your winnings? You know, it used to be easy to like get down on America. Like you go into one of these places, you come back and be like, man, this is ridiculous. We need to, you know, why don't we do more? You know, and it's like, you know what? That's not the right attitude to have about this. We have been given a gift. We've been given an ability to do something that can impact so many different places throughout this world. And now with travel and different, I mean, we can be in the Philippines in less than a day. That's crazy. You know, and the fact that we can do that and that we have the resources to go and do things like this, I mean, I think it's incredible. You know, I think it's something that we've got to do. And so it just comes down to a response. I think our entire lives are made up of responses, right? I mean, think about it. Your whole day, you get an email, you respond. You get a phone call, you respond. You get hungry, you respond to that hunger, you pick a food. But on a bigger scale, how do you respond to someone else that needs something? How do you respond to someone else that's hungry? Do you feed them? I think these are the things that make up who we become. The important thing is that we don't walk away. This was one of those things that once we saw it, once we met Johnny and saw this, there was no way we could have walked away from this. Now, this is the really fun part of the night that I know every single one of you in here is waiting for, and you're excited about it, you're giddy. I'm going to ask you for money. That's basically what's going to happen now. I had a professor, and we talked a lot about this because I used to be so nervous to bring this up, you know, which is bad if you're the director of a nonprofit that counts on donations. But there's an information packet, and there's a card within there. If you want to pull that out and take a look at it. We want you to make a decision on this. I mean, this is not something, we don't want to pressure you. We don't want to use the fundraising techniques. We want this to be something that you prayerfully consider and how you can get involved with us. But I want to give you kind of a quick look at what we plan to do with money from this tonight. And we've made it to where the only way for tonight, the only way that you can give to our actual, like our operational expenses is if you designate it. We want this entire night to go towards the field. We know that we have urgent needs. What we're talking about tonight is urgent needs. It's what's happening overseas. And so we are going to focus 100% of everything that comes in unless it's designated otherwise. So if you leave it unrestricted, everything goes to the field. And so we're going to focus that in on specifically on the nutritional programs overseas as well as the educational programs. So we're going to be building some schools this year, continuing these nutrition programs that we've committed to that we're still not really sure how we're going to continue that. But that is what we're focused on tonight. And we don't ever want there to be a question mark for anybody. There has been, a lot of mishandling of money in nonprofits and different places, and we've made a very strict policy that everything we do is 100% transparent. We put an annual report in your bag. If you want to talk to me ever about our finances, come and talk to me. We have all of our salaries are raised specifically through specific people, and we always had a goal of actually getting to the point where even all of our operations were covered by a specific group of people, even not using unrestricted gifts for that. And this year we accomplished it. We actually 100% of all payroll, all operations were paid by specific people. So every unrestricted gift that came into our ministry this year was put towards the field. And I think that's an incredible thing for just being in our fourth year. If we can keep on that road and move more and more towards that kind of focus on our field ministries, I think it's just going to continue to advance and move us even quicker than we've been going at this point. And so this band comes out. They're going to play just a final song. I want you to just prayerfully consider what you want to do and fill out your card. If you do so, there's an envelope with it, and then you can put it in there's a little trash can in the middle of your table. I promise they will be taken care of properly. But just place it there. And just remember, tonight it's a benefit, of course, but it's not just about money. I think tonight is more about the love of humanity and being able to respond to people that really, really need our help. I mean, this is something that we need to respond to. Thank you guys for coming tonight.
Find me here speak to me. I want to feel you. I need to hear you. You are the light that's leading me to the place where I find peace again. You are the strength that keeps me walking. You are the hope that keeps me trusting. You are the life to my soul. You are my purpose. You are everything. And how can I stand here with you and not be moved by you? You tell me, how could it be any better than this? Yeah. You calm the storms. You give me rest. Give me rest. You hold me in your hands. You won't let me fall. Won't let me fall. You still my heart. You take my breath away. Would you draw me in? Take me deeper now. And how can I stand here with you and not be moved by you? You tell me, how could it be any better than this? How can I stand here with you and not be moved by you? You tell me, how could it be any better than this? 'Cause you're all I want, you're all I need, you're everything, everything. You're all I want, you're all I need, you're everything, everything. You're all I want, you're all I need, you're everything, everything. You're all I want, you're all I need, you're everything, everything. And how can I stand here with you and not be moved by you? You tell me, how could it be any better than this?
Again, isn't it incredible to see the power of what happens when a group of people come together and make themselves available to where God's leading them? It has been a true pleasure and honor to see over the past 4 years what happens and what all is transformed simply when we love the people that God's put in front of us. We've seen as a church, as a student ministry, as people who know Trash Mountain, we have seen lives changed. We've seen hearts changed. We've seen eternity redefined for people because we have been intentional about loving them. We've been intentional about doing something about what God's put in front of us. It's amazing. Pastor Joni and I were talking just right before this event about how you can hear children that don't know how to articulate a dream. It's 16 years old. I have a 4-year-old that can tell you what his dream is. I mean, he wants to be the Hulk, but he can still tell you what his dream is. A 16-year-old that cannot articulate hope. We have the opportunity as people, as churches, and as organizations to be a part of a powerful movement of God that is changing lives all over the world. And it's not just what we give. It's what we give, but it's not just what we give. So as you continue to fill out your cards and put those in that trash can on the table, there's another card that I want to call your attention to, and it's these story cards that are right in front of you. Take these home. Don't leave these here. Take these home and let this continue to be real for you. This is something that Brett says, that John says every time we go on a trip and visit these communities, is this is something that you should let hurt you because it's painful. The reality that these people are in, the reality of what could happen, the reality of where God is taking them isn't something that we want to forget when we leave here tonight. So take these cards, read these stories, pray for these boys and girls, pray for these men and women, pray that God would continue to use us in Topeka, Kansas, that he would continue to use people there, and that he would continue to work and move and change lives, because that's what God does, and that's why we worship him. That's the essence of what he's about. So thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for being willing to be a part of God working in the world. As we move towards a close, if you were here last year, maybe you remember Fran from the Dominican Republic. He's back. I'd like to call him up now. He is going to pray for us. So if you would please prepare your hearts. Fran, come on up. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks. Psalm 133 says that how good and pleasant it is when we're united. We come from different backgrounds. We're having dinner tonight. We're in unity. God is calling us for this huge thing, 5 communities, to establish his kingdom. So let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to give so that others will receive. Padre, gracias por cada persona que está aquí esta noche. Bendice sus finanzas. Bendice todo que ellos tienen y que pueden seguir dando para ti, Señor. We give you the honor and glory, Father, for allowing us to be here and to continue to have strength, to continue to have work, to be able to give to what you're calling us to give. Thank you for Trash Mountain. Thank you for the leadership. Thank you for those who are involved. Father, multiply those who would like to get on board. And thank you for the countries you're allowing us to be involved in, Father, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Fran. As you guys continue to finish filling out your cards, please feel free, don't feel rushed to take your time to finish that, to put that in the table. And then once you're done, we're not done just because we're done in here. There's 2 more things I want to call your attention to on your way out. One of them is the aquaponics exhibit. It's really incredible. I know for me, I didn't really know what that meant. I don't know a lot about math and science, so that's not a high bar, but I didn't know what that was. I had no idea what they meant when they said aquaponics could transform a community. And then I saw it. It really is incredible. It's right down the hall. So again, just like you went to go get food, just keep going a little bit. There's an aquaponics exhibit, and you can physically see what it looks like for Trash Mountain to be able to feed a community and give them some economic sustainability through aquaponics. Don't miss that. The other place I'd love for you to stop by is the Trash Mountain store. It is on the right down this hallway on your way out. Again, they have t-shirts in there. They have some really cool things that you can pick up. That's a really easy way to tell people about Trash Mountain, because they'll say, hey, that t-shirt looks great. I know the graphic designer, he's really good. Pick up one of the t-shirts. They'll say, man, that looks great. Tell me about Trash Mountain. And you can be a part of spreading the vision you've heard about tonight. Again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being willing to be a part of what God is doing throughout the world through Trash Mountain. God bless you. Good evening.